Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Let me start from the beginning, because this is going to be a long and messy story. My mom, Karen, met my dad, James, when my sister, Olivia, was about 6 years old at the time. Olivia's father, Rick, was never in the picture. From what my mom told me, he was a charming but irresponsible guy she met in her early 20s. He was always drifting from one dead-end job to another, and when she got pregnant with Olivia, he panicked. Rick promised to step up, but he never did. He missed appointments, skipped Olivia's birthday, and disappeared entirely when she was only a few months old. My mom was devastated, but vowed to raise Olivia on her own. A few years later, my mom met my dad. He was the polar opposite of Rick, steady, hardworking, and reliable. He was the kind of man who brought flowers on a first date and called when he said he would. They fell in love quickly, and before long, they got married, and then after a year I was born. My dad adopted Olivia, even though she was hesitant at first. He treated her like his own, but my mom's attitude always made things complicated. Growing up, it was clear to me that my mom had a soft spot for Olivia. She always justified it by saying that Olivia had a difficult start in life because her biological father abandoned her. Meanwhile, I was the lucky one. I had my dad, a stable home, and everything Olivia missed out on during her early years. My mom's favoritism was subtle at first, but became more blatant as we got older. When Olivia and I fought as kids, it was always my fault. If Olivia wanted something expensive, a new phone, designer clothes, concert tickets, my mom would find a way to get it for her. I'd get lectures about being grateful for what I had. "You've never known what it's like to struggle," she'd say, as if it was my fault that I was born into a stable family. Meanwhile, my dad tried his best to be a good stepfather to Olivia. He went to all her school events, spoiled her buying her things, supported her through her breakups, etc. But no matter what he did, it never seemed to be enough for my mom. She'd accuse him of favoring me over Olivia, even though he went out of his way to treat us equally. I think she projected her guilt about Rick onto my dad, and he bore the brunt of it. As adults, Olivia and I drifted apart. She'd always been a bit dramatic. Every small inconvenience in her life becomes a full-blown crisis. Most recently, she was engaged to a guy named Ethan. They were together for 3 years, and everyone thought they were perfect for each other, until Olivia caught him cheating with one of her bridesmaids. She was devastated, and honestly, I felt terrible for her. But my mom's reaction was over the top. To help Olivia get over her broken heart, my mom decided to treat her to a 2-week trip to Paris. Not just any trip, though. This was luxury all the way. They flew business class, stayed in one of the most expensive hotels in the city, and ate at Michelin-starred restaurants. My mom even hired a private tour guide to show them around. The trip, by my dad's estimate, cost at least $30,000. My dad was supportive of Olivia taking a trip to clear her head, but he became suspicious of how my mom was funding this extravagance. Yes, she works and has some savings, but a trip like that would have drained her entire account into negative balance. So while my mom and Olivia were off enjoying Paris, my dad decided to check the family finances. That's when he discovered that my mom had taken $30,000 from my college fund to pay for the trip. I can't even describe how furious my dad was when he found out. He's always been incredibly diligent about saving for my education. Both he and my mom have been contributing to that fund for years, and he thought it was untouchable. To see that money gone, money meant for my future, was the final straw for him. When my mom came back from Paris, she was glowing. She couldn't stop talking about how much Olivia had needed the trip and how it was worth every penny to see her happy again. My dad confronted her almost immediately. He demanded to know why she had taken money from my college fund without telling him. At first, she tried downplaying it, saying she'd been planning to put the money back eventually. But my dad wasn't having it. He told her she had 1 week to return the money, or he was filing for divorce. That's when my mom turned to me. She's been crying nonstop, begging me to talk to my dad and convince him to reconsider. "You know how much Olivia's been through," she said. "She needed this. I was just trying to help her." She keeps insisting that she'll find a way to replace the money, but I don't see how. And honestly, I'm tired of always being the afterthought. My dad is furious and heartbroken. He's been telling me for years that my mom's favoritism towards Olivia was a problem, but I always brushed it off. Now, I see how much it's hurt him. He's done everything he can to be a good husband and father, but my mom has always put Olivia first, even at the expense of our family. This time, though, she crossed the line. Over the years, my dad had tried bringing up the favoritism issue with my mom, but she always brushed it off or turned it around on him. She'd accuse him of not loving Olivia as much as he loved me, even though that wasn't true. He treated Olivia and me equally in every way he could. But my mom's constant enabling of Olivia created a wedge in our family dynamic that only grew wider over time. I've started to reflect on all the times my dad went above and beyond for Olivia, only for my mom to belittle his efforts. For example, when Olivia was struggling in college, my dad spent countless hours tutoring her in math, even though he was working full-time. He even paid for a private tutor when things didn't improve. But instead of being grateful, my mom criticized him for not being patient enough with Olivia. It's like nothing he ever did was good enough in her eyes. Now, with the money gone and my dad at his breaking point, I can't help but feel like my mom's actions were the culmination of years of unchecked favoritism. She's always put Olivia on a pedestal, and this Paris trip was just the latest example. The fact that she felt entitled to raid my college fund to finance it is what hurts the most. It's not just about the money, it's about the principle. I told my mom that I wasn't going to mediate. I told her that what she did was wrong and that she needed to face the consequences. She's furious with me now, saying I'm ungrateful and that I'll understand one day when I'm a parent. But I don't think I'm the one who's in the wrong here. I've been trying to support my dad as much as I can, but I can see how much this is weighing on him. He's always been the rock of our family, but this betrayal has shaken him to his core. He told me that he feels like he's been living in a one-sided marriage for years, always giving but never receiving. Hearing him say that broke my heart. As for Olivia, I'm not sure how much she knows about what's going on. My mom hasn't told her about the money, and I haven't either. I don't think Olivia is intentionally taking advantage of my mom, but her constant dependence on her has enabled this toxic dynamic. I've thought about telling everything to Olivia, but I don't know if it would make things better or worse. Meanwhile, my mom has been trying every tactic she can think of to win me over. She's been sending me long text messages about how much she loves me and how she's always tried to do what's best for our family. But honestly, if she's been enabling Olivia this long, I don't see her changing overnight. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my mom's side? Wow, OP's mom really crossed the line here. Taking money from OP's college fund to fund a luxury trip for OP's sister is a massive betrayal of trust, especially since both OP's parents contributed to that fund. OP's dad has every right to be furious, and honestly, I don't blame him for considering divorce. It sounds like this favoritism has been going on for years, and this might be the final straw. OP is not the a-hole for refusing to mediate. OP is just trying to hold her mom accountable for her actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Your mom's constant enabling of Olivia isn't just unfair to you and your dad. It's also unhealthy for Olivia in the long run. She's an adult who needs to learn to cope with life's hardships without relying on your mom to throw money at every problem. And let's be real, raiding your college fund to pay for a luxury trip is beyond selfish. Your mom created this mess, and it's not your responsibility to fix it. If anything, I think you're doing the right thing by supporting your dad and refusing to enable her behavior further. Honestly, I feel bad for your dad in all of this. It sounds like he's been trying to do the right thing for years, but your mom's favoritism has completely undermined his efforts. It's heartbreaking to hear how much he's given to Olivia, only to be treated like he's never done enough. Your mom might think she's helping Olivia, but this kind of enabling is toxic. As hard as it is, your dad has a point. Your mom needs to replace the money or face the consequences. You're not the a-hole for standing your ground. Your mom needs a serious reality check. What she did wasn't just wrong, it was selfish and short-sighted. That money was meant for your education, not a luxury vacation to help Olivia cope. I understand that she feels guilty about Olivia's rough start in life, but that doesn't justify sacrificing your future. Your dad's reaction is 100% justified, and I think you're right to back him up. It's time for your mom to take responsibility for her actions instead of expecting everyone else to clean up her mess. Not the a-hole. I, 52 male, married my wife Angela, 42 female, 20 years ago. She had a 4-year-old daughter, Sam. Me and Angela had 3 more biological children together, but I always treated Sam as my own child as well. Sam's bio dad was a deadbeat. He had visitations but never showed up. This, of course, affected Sam, so me and Angela put her on therapy. I always had a good relationship with Sam, and she always called me Dad. Sam's long-term boyfriend proposed to her in 2019, and in 2020, they got married, and that's when things went downhill. Sam's bio dad contacted her because he heard she would get married. She started to disinvite me for things in favor of her bio dad, and she uninvited me from her wedding. Angela and our children got mad, but I asked them not to. As you might expect, mine and Sam's relationship is not the same as it used to be. Now, almost 3 years after the wedding, her dad got back into his old ways. I've been cordial but cold to her. I don't refer to her as my child anymore, and she has noticed it. She tried to talk to me, but I told her I have my boundaries and she needs to respect them. Yesterday, it was Angela's birthday. I made a toast to her and gave a little speech about us and our 3 children. Sam started crying and asked why I needed to keep excluding her and that she had apologized and she regrets it. She left soon after, but I've not stopped thinking about what happened. My children say I'm not the a-hole. Angela says I should at least talk to her. Not the a-hole. Even if she wants the bio dad present in her life, she doesn't have to cut you off so coldly. She even uninvited you from her wedding. She chose him over you, the father that actually took care of her when her bio dad didn't. I don't understand why people voted otherwise. She was an adult when she made the decision to cut off OP. I don't blame him in any way for not wanting to have anything to do with her anymore. She's just an entitled brat. Not the a-hole. That being said, this is a very complicated situation. She probably took you for granted and assumed you would always be there for her. Her father's abandonment caused a lot of emotional damage to her. And even though you loved her like your own, she would most likely question herself, why didn't her father love her? Seeing you and her half-siblings could have been hard on her as well, as they got what she believed she didn't. Once her bio dad bailed out again, and you stopped treating her as a daughter, she must have realized how bad she screwed up and tried to apologize. Seeing you not mention her in your speech must have been the final blow to her. I can see you still love her, so try to talk to her, so you two can overcome this issue. Everyone sucks here. Being abandoned by a biological father is a really complicated feeling, especially more confusing when they come back into your life. She acted poorly and she hurt you. You are now hurting her in reciprocation. If you have any desire to fix this, ask her to sit down and talk with you to hash things out. Lead the conversation with the fact that you have both hurt each other and you would like to calmly lay it out on the table to see if you can salvage the relationship. This is, of course, dependent on if you want that. Then go from there. Maybe join therapy if you are both open to it. Make sure you are clear that things are not fixed yet, but you want to work towards mending things. My parents have always told my brother, male 18, and I, female 20, that our college fund only had enough money for us to study locally. If we want to go overseas, we have to get a scholarship. When I finished my exams, I got scholarships at every university I applied to, including a government scholarship, with 7 selection rounds, to study overseas. I turned it down because the bond was for 6 years, and I didn't want to be tied down in my 20s when I could be exploring new opportunities. I'm currently studying locally on a scholarship. My parents only pay for hostel fees, so my college fund is untouched. My brother is applying to Ivy League schools this year, and my parents suddenly said that as long as he gets into the school that he wants, he doesn't need to worry about the money. They will take money out from their retirement fund to pay for his college education, but he has to eventually pay them the difference between his school fees and the sum in his college fund. I was very angry about this, because my parents have made it a point to tell us repeatedly how they don't practice favoritism and have always treated us equally. Instead, they refuse to give me the opportunity to study overseas, would cost $250K, but suddenly decide to pay for my brother $500K uni fees, such that he would be able to take any job he wanted after graduating without any commitments. There have been no changes in my parents' financial status over the past few years. We didn't suddenly win the lottery such that there is extra cash to spend. My parents and I had a huge argument about it, and my father said that I had no right to their money, and that I should have the grace to be happy for my brother and the opportunities that he has. Am I the a-hole for being resentful and arguing with my parents about their decision to pay for my brother and not for me? Not the a-hole. They clearly show favoritism. They should have offered the same to you or not offer it at all. You both should be given equal opportunities with equal conditions. Not the a-hole, but don't poison your life because of this. And let your brother take care of them when they will be retired and needy. They have been unfair to you. Not the a-hole. Your parents are clearly playing favorites. I will say that in general, I feel like a state school is almost always a better investment because you get a great education for a lot less. The one exception is the Ivy League, plus a few other like Stanford, Caltech, and MIT, Cambridge, and Oxford. Why? Because of the name recognition and the value of the respective alumni networks. Regardless, your parents are playing favorites. I'm not saying that they should deny your brother an Ivy education. I'm saying that they should admit that they mistreated you. My wife, 28 female, is pregnant with our first child. She is about 5 months along, and I, 29 male, am very excited to be a father. This past weekend we had a baby shower at our house. We invited both sides of our family rather than try to do 2 separate showers. I have a cousin, Sue, 22 female, who I wasn't going to invite because she's very open about being child-free, to the point, in my opinion, of being anti-natalist. She said some very out there things in the past about these topics, and I figured she wouldn't want to come, even if we invited her. But after getting pressured from both my mom and Sue's mom about not leaving her out, I reluctantly sent Sue an invite, and to my surprise, she accepted. For the most part, things went well at the shower. But when my wife started opening presents, Sue kept making comments. First, it was about how much waste diapers create, and how wasteful baby clothes are, because they outgrow them so fast. Then it was about how so many baby and kids' toys are made overseas, where workers are taken advantage of. Then, when my mom told us that they had already set up a college fund for our child, Sue made a comment about how parents shouldn't force their kids out of the house at 18, and how if people had to support their kids all through life, maybe less people would have kids. It was at this point that I pulled Sue aside and talked to her in another room. I told her that if she hates the idea of kids so much, then she might as well just leave. She said she was just stating facts, and that the truth can never be controversial. I told her that in that case, I have a hard truth for her. I told her that the only reason I invited her is because her mom practically begged me to, and that she is no longer welcome, so she should leave. I must have raised my voice louder than I thought, because my mom and Sue's mom came into the room and asked what was going on. Sue said that I'm kicking her out because she's child-free. I told her I'm kicking her out because she's being an a-hole on a day that is supposed to be about celebrating my wife's pregnancy, and all Sue is doing is making it about her BS beliefs. My mom and Sue's mom tried to calm things down, but I insisted that Sue leave right then and there, or I would be forced to call the police because she's currently trespassing. She grabbed her things and stormed out, and my mom and Sue's mom got mad at me. They told me that Sue was just stating her opinion, and that some of the things she said are true. I told them that there's a time and a place for that kind of conversation, and a baby shower sure as hell isn't it. I told them this is exactly why I didn't want to invite Sue in the first place, and as far as I'm concerned, they are just as much to blame as Sue is. Literally no one is happy, and the whole baby shower became about something else instead of focusing on my wife and our coming baby. There is a time and a place for stating your opinion. Being a jerk when someone is opening a gift, and talking about how wasteful that gift is, and so on, is not that place or time. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your cousin sounds insufferable, and you did the right thing by kicking her out. The focus should have been on your wife, your baby, and you, and the celebration of welcoming a new family member soon. She did everything to ruin the mood, and to make you and your wife feel bad. She deserved to get kicked out, and you're definitely not an a-hole for it. Rather the opposite. Not the a-hole. Your cousin sounds like a pain, and your mom and aunt are idiots for thinking her presence would be a good idea. The statement, "the truth is never controversial," is the most asinine thing I've heard in a long time. Don't just kick your cousin out of the baby shower. Kick her out of your life. Be sure to keep her far away from your kid so she doesn't express how much of a mistake having a child is to the kid themselves. People like this are pathetic. It's fine to be child-free, but to purposely and vindictively try to ruin someone else's baby shower because of your personal beliefs is immature at best and cruel at worst. My brother is Vin, and he's married to my sister-in-law, Samantha. Vin's son is Hayden, and he's 11, and Samantha's daughter is Aria, and she's 5. When Hayden was 7 and Aria was 2, Vin and Samantha got married. Hayden's mom died when he was a baby, and Aria's dad does not appear to have ever been in her life. So around 5 months ago, Vin came and asked me if I could spend some time talking to Hayden and figure out why he seemed so indifferent toward Aria. He said he and Samantha were concerned because Hayden didn't really pay any attention to her, and a lot of people believed Hayden was an only child, which they felt must have come from Hayden. I spoke to Hayden some. He was pretty talkative about it actually. He told me he really didn't care much for Aria, and that she wasn't his sister, and he didn't want her to be. I asked if there was any reason, and he said he just didn't. That Samantha isn't his mom, and his dad isn't Aria's dad, so they weren't brother and sister. He also said he never really wanted his dad and Samantha to get married, and so he tried not to say much, because he didn't want his dad to be angry with him. I helped him talk to Vin about what he told me. Once my involvement was more or less done, Samantha was informed by Vin. Hayden called and told me he hoped everything would be okay. I tried to assure him that it would be. A few weeks after I had spoken to Hayden and my brother, Samantha and Vin asked to speak to our family, me, sister, other brother, and parents. And they said that Hayden was rejecting Aria and not wanting to try and be a family with her, and so they wanted us to start focusing on Aria and leaving Hayden out so he could learn how cruel that is. None of us were okay with the idea, and Samantha spoke up and said that Hayden is older and has known Aria most of her life. She adores him, and he's indifferent to her and shows no kind of love, affection, or outright warmth to her, and she does not want that to continue. We all said we could not just ignore Hayden since he's a kid. They decided to then focus on me after none of us agreed because I am closest to Hayden, and they figure it would hurt him more if I were to leave him behind and pick Aria over him. I told him it was cruel what they wanted to do, and I accused them of wanting to make him feel totally isolated and alone, and asked them had they thought about what that would do to Hayden. Samantha and Aria gets upset occasionally when Hayden won't play with her, and we don't seem to care about that. I told her we all care about Aria too, but they were asking adults to be mean to a child. That not all siblings are close, and sometimes you just need to accept it and focus on their interests and friendships. She told me I was acting like they were monsters when they are trying to teach a child old enough to know and what to do better. Am I the a-hole for accusing them like I did? Not the a-hole. She told me I was acting like they were monsters. And that's exactly damn right. They are. Feelings and emotions cannot be forced, and it would only get worse if they tried that crap. Good that you stick with your nephew and keep an eye on them. That sicko could try something else. Not the a-hole. Your brother and sister-in-law are trying to force a relationship. That is the worst way to blend a family. And I can't believe they had the audacity to try to manipulate you into cutting ties with your nephew to try and force that bond. What they are doing is completely unacceptable, and I think most of us would consider it aggression. Not the a-hole. Why is your brother okay with his wife being mean to his son? Maybe the issue is that your nephew just doesn't want to hang out with a 5-year-old girl. I'm thinking like a 7-year-old here. But maybe Aria has boring ideas for playing, and he just isn't interested in the same things as her. Maybe your brother is so focused on making his stepdaughter feel like part of the family that he is ignoring his son. And here's the last one, which is an update to the story where OP's wife ruined his coworker's baby shower. So I texted my coworker, let's call him Frank, and asked if we could talk, so we met up during our lunch break. I apologized for everything that happened. He kept telling me it's fine and being so nice about it, and that kind of made me feel worse. He said he has booked Mary a ticket back home for a week, and that her sisters and friends were going to surprise her with another baby shower. I asked if he minded my wife and I paying the expenses of the baby shower they were going to throw. He laughed and said no way, but that he appreciated it. We went back and forth a bit, but he eventually said he'd ask his sister-in-law how much she spends on everything, and then would let me know and we can pay half of it. I spoke to my wife when I got home from work. She apologized for ignoring me and said she doesn't know why she behaves like this. She said she is embarrassed and she can't bring herself to come to terms with how she behaved. We also spoke about the infertility thing. She said she thought saying it out loud and discussing it with people would make it easier for her if she found out she was actually infertile, because she would have already come to terms with it. I don't get it, but hey, at least she didn't dodge accountability this time and did acknowledge that it's wrong and she needs to stop. It's slightly worrying to me how she sounds like a completely new person so often lately, almost like there are multiple versions of her who don't know each other. I said I'm glad she now realizes it's wrong, and asked her to send flowers or something with an apology note to Mary's house. I also mentioned that I offered to pay for the next baby shower, and she told me to insist that she pays it all and not half. I said I'm fine with splitting it. She also said she would bake a cake and go to Mary personally to apologize. I told her Mary is leaving town for a week, so that will have to wait till she gets back, but she did send a lengthy text with a sincere, in my opinion, text. Mary responded saying my wife didn't need to apologize and that she understands what happened, and thanked her for attending the baby shower. Mary also apologized for leaving without saying goodbye to my wife and the rest of the guests. You see how nice Mary and Frank are? Jesus! We decided on both individual and couples therapy soon. Anyone know if it's okay to do them simultaneously? She wants to, but I'm not sure it's a great idea. It was a given that we would stop trying for a baby, so that's definitely on hold for now. So yeah, that's it for now, I guess. I've never been to therapy, and neither has she, so I'm hoping this is the beginning of our relationship getting much healthier, and our individual growths as well. Did not expect that kind of update after the first post. I mean, your wife acknowledging she is behaving badly after being so unhinged. So there might be some hope there.